People who grew up really poor, what's something middle-class people say that instantly reveals they've never struggled? My stepdad asked me if I wanted to go clothes shopping for the new school year the first year after he married my mom. I said yes, and was amazed when we went to Kohl's, not the thrift store. I got 1 pair of pants on clearance and 2 shirts on clearance, and told him I was ready to check out. He took me back to the clothes and picked out more for me. I nearly had a panic attack when we got to the register and it was over $100. This was late 90s, so a lot of money for clothes back then, at least to me. I started pulling stuff out to put back, and he stopped me and asked what I was doing. He paid and I got to take all of it home, and he did this every year until I moved out. Before this we weren't allowed to turn on lights in the house during the day to keep the electric bill low. Edit. Thank you for all the awards. Also, I should clarify about the comment about the lights. We had always lived in Section 8 apartments and tiny duplexes. They don't normally have a lot of windows. I remember one had a window technically in my room, but it was tiny. Also, this rule stood even on cloudy and overcast days. I loved my stepdad very much. He passed away a few years ago from liver cancer, but I was his caregiver to the very end and I held his hand as he took his last breath. He was a special ed teacher his entire adult life and raised me in a way I later learned other kids weren't raised. I grew up around children with all types of physical and mental disabilities, and they were my best friends. Something that I learned in high school is unusual. He looked just like Santa Claus, and was a true hippie minus the drugs. He believed in putting positive energy into the world, and firmly believed God is love. He sold handmade incense from India, China, and Japan through his college years, and I inherited what remained of his stock when he passed. His living room was basically a library, with floor-to-ceiling built-in bookshelves, and he took me to the library twice a week minimum. He was strict. I had to read 30 minutes of poetry, 30 minutes of a biography, and 1 hour of a chapter book of my choosing and write an entire page of whatever I wanted to write every day during summer breaks, and I had to do more chores than most. But I was in gymnastics, on a swim team, and rode horses as well, and I never thought I would be the kind of kid that would be able to do that. Because of all the reading and writing, school was easy to me. He was a folk singer/songwriter and ran a local music venue that brought traveling musicians to the area. It ran on donations, and he paid from his own wallet when donations were short. We baked cookies every weekend for it. People still talk about his listening room, a term that is widely used now, but one he coined over 30 years ago when he started his venue. It was lit by candlelight and guests would sit at tables. The musicians weren't on a stage, they were there in the audience. You could reach out and touch their instruments if you were rude enough. The venue itself was in a renovated house built in the early to mid-1900s. He wasn't perfect, but he was pretty much as close as you could get and still be human. He completely changed the trajectory of my entire life. I miss him every day. I am so glad I got to share what was probably to him such a small contribution, but such a connecting moment with all of you. Bless your mom for finding a man that is willing to look after a child that isn't his own, and bless him for being a great dad. My stepdad is the only grandpa my kids know. They know I have a birth dad, but they've never met him. I was basically an adult when they got together, but man, he makes my mom happy. Early on he didn't try to parent us, nor did he try to be cool as my mom's boyfriend. It just worked. Now they've been together half my life. My wife has never known my family without him, nor my kids. The financial strain on being a single parent, of course, stressful on my mom, but to see where they are now, can fly across the country at a drop of a hat if need be to see my family, or spoil the hell out of all the grandkids. I love him more just for the stability he offers my mom. This was my experience with a stepdad. All of a sudden there was someone in my life who was actually seeking to connect with me and make sure all of my needs were met and were a priority. It was, and still is, the best part of my childhood, and my bio parents both don't understand, because they just can't. I'd have like one outfit picked out and shyly thanking him profusely, as all of us in poverty do when someone shows us kindness, and he would send me back to the dressing room, and he would get an associate and together they would start throwing stuff over for me to try on. At first I thought it was just fun window shopping, but when he said, put it in the cart, over and over. I was absolutely blown away, and so excited to have clothes that weren't completely threadbare or paint-stained from thrifts, etc.
Yeah.
He unfortunately found the internet and got injured at work right at the worst time, and over a period of a year, his opinions went further and further right aligned, and I would have to explain or debunk conspiracies daily to keep him tethered to some kind of reality. So like most things, it was a beautifully preserved window of time when he wasn't like that. Now, I would throttle the man for the way he treats my mother, but that's not who he was, but who he became through chronic pain from his injury and YouTube rot. I will defend him religiously in certain circumstances, and that is because somewhere at his core, he is a good man who always did the objectively right thing. I would break something on pure accident, and then brace myself for the yelling/abuse that would follow, and he looked me in the face and said with so much compassion, "It's just a thing. Are you, the human being, okay?" To this day, every loud noise in my house has me yelling, "You good," because he did, year after year. The person he was influenced the step-parent I am today, and honestly they don't get enough credit. It's a shame that he's fallen down the rabbit hole, but it's great that you can still appreciate him being there for you when it mattered. "Just ask your parents for money" was a phrase my upper-middle-class roommate used all the time in college. Dude, they didn't have any money either. He was given money from his parents and grandparents every weekend and blew it all on booze and clubbing. I struggled to figure out how to pay for my next meal. Have you considered opening a credit card? I was talking about needing to sign up for the first available start date for my job after graduation because I need the income ASAP so I can pay my rent on time that month. I decided in my junior year of college that I was in the poorest apartment on campus, fancy liberal arts college, so this is possible. None of us owned a car, so the only way to buy groceries was to walk 2 miles, beg a ride, or wait for my friend's dad to drive us on the weekend. Our only protein was from that dad as well. He was a farmhand who was partially paid in beef, which he brought us. Otherwise, it was pasta and grilled cheese most days. As the child of low-paid civil servants, I was the rich one. To say that none of us were calling home for booze money was a bit of an understatement. At one of the parent meetings before my oldest went on a band trip to Universal, the band director reminded the students to be on their best behavior because there would be other people at the resort and park and this might be their only trip of the year. I kept my mouth shut. For some of the kids in the band, mine included, this would be the only vacation they'd taken in years, if at all. And a trip to Universal was probably more than they could imagine. Got really good health and dental through my job a few years ago. Went to the dentist and they were doing a cleaning and would not stop pressuring me for x-rays. It was my first time there and they were not sure if they took my insurance so I could not get stuck with a huge bill. A cleaning was doable, but x-rays? The person literally would not stop. Them, you should really get them. Me, am not sure if you take my insurance and how much is covered if you do. Them, you should really do it though, it's important. Me, I understand that, I cannot afford it. Them, it doesn't matter if you can't afford it, you really should get it. Me, it does matter if I can't afford rent or groceries or my car payments. Which will make future dentist visits impossible. I am negative money before the copay, so unless you are giving out x-rays for free, I won't be doing it. Diagnoses and treatment for various life-altering but not necessarily debilitating illnesses/disorders. I grew up pretty poor and am now in grad school with a lot of people that grew up without a lot of financial stress, and something that sticks out to me is how many of them have some sort of ailment, allergy, disorder, and/or syndrome that probably would have just gone undiagnosed/untreated in the community I grew up in. Now, I'm not arguing that the people with these conditions need to rub some dirt on it, but rather healthcare and health literacy should be more accessible to all so that more people can figure out if they have something going on that is making their life harder.